All right, guys, Super Tuesday. This is it. It's go time. So I'm going to give you my predictions for what I think is going to happen. These are not all backed up by data necessarily. There's a little bit of gut feeling involved as well. I think the best way to do this is basically in alphabetical order. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. So first off, we got Alabama. Alabama, this is a southern state. Honestly, I'm giving this to Biden. I don't think Bernie's going to fare well over there. As a matter of fact, 538 Nate Silver, he gave Biden a 79% chance of winning Alabama. So next up, we got American Samoa. Honestly, this one's a bit of a mystery. From the little information that I've seen and what 538 is also saying, I'm giving it to Biden. By a narrow lead, I'm giving it to Biden. Okay. So next up, we got Arkansas. For Arkansas, this is another southern state. I think the last poll I saw was before Joe Biden won in South Carolina, which gave him a bunch of momentum and stuff. So I think it's going to Biden. Biden seems to be doing really well in southern states, which begs the question why he has more support in those places than in blue states. Maybe it's because he's a Republican. But yeah, I'm giving this one to Biden too. Now we got California. Easy answer right there. Bernie Sanders, 100%. This is going to Bernie Sanders. Now the question is by how much? Because before, Bernie Sanders had a 20-point lead in the polls. And now, because Buttigieg has dropped out, Amy Klobuchar has dropped out, Tom Steyer has dropped out, they've all dropped like fleas. They've consolidated some of that support behind Joe Biden, and now he's actually making the viability threshold in the latest polls. This is bad because it eats away delegates from Bernie Sanders. And now the only question is, by how much is Bernie Sanders going to win California? But yes, this is definitely going to Bernie Sanders. He has put in the work. He has been campaigning relentlessly in California. His surrogates have been campaigning relentlessly. All the volunteers, the countless volunteers for the Bernie Sanders campaign have been doing amazing work. I think Bernie had somewhere around 23 campaign offices in California, whereas Joe Biden had like one, and it was padlocked. I think you guys heard of this story. It was in the New York Times. They covered it. I mean, the guy has done nothing in California. I'm absolutely astounded that he's even polling at 16%. He should be polling at 0%. So yeah, no question. West Side Cali is going to Bernie Sanders. Now, next up, we have Colorado. Again, this is easily going to Bernie Sanders. He has a huge base of support there. If you look at the stats from Nate Silver, he puts Bernie Sanders at an 85% chance of winning Colorado. Easy win. After that, we have Maine. Maine is also another stronghold. This is going to Bernie Sanders, no question. And it's also right next to Vermont, where Bernie Sanders is a senator. So that also helped. You can see here from the latest poll, Bernie Sanders is at 43%. Biden trailing him 24%. So it's basically a 20-point lead there. And Nate Silver puts him at 67% at winning Maine. So no worries there. After that, we have Massachusetts. I think Bernie Sanders is going to humiliate Elizabeth Warren. And it's really interesting how people are trying to make the case for Elizabeth Warren that, she can unify progressives and moderates, and she has the best path forward. Dude, she's not even going to win her own state. She's not going to win a single state. I mean, this is mind-boggling, the mental gymnastics that these people go through to justify her staying in the race. She cannot win a single state. How on God's earth can you make any viable case for that person to become the nominee, let alone the president? I mean, this is lunacy. You saw that rally he did a few days ago in Boston. I mean, 13,000 people showed up. It looked massive. He did that right in Elizabeth Warren's backyard. And yeah, I think it's going to him. So Nate Silver puts him at 63% chance of winning the state. It's in the bag. So next thing we have Minnesota. Now, I think Bernie Sanders is going to get this one, especially after Cloud Boot Jar dropped out. So there's like no competition there now because the senator of that state is gone. Nate Silver here puts Amy Klobuchar at 56% of winning her own state. But now that she's gone and Bernie Sanders had a 40% chance of winning the state, dwarfing everyone else, I think Bernie Sanders is going to grab it. So even though she's endorsing Biden, it's not going to make much of a difference. Now, going into North Carolina, this one is spicy because I don't know. There are polls that look very favorable to Bernie Sanders, but I mean, it could go either way, in my opinion. I don't think that it's 100% in the bag. If you look at the odds from Nate Silver, he's saying that Joe Biden has a 77% chance of winning North Carolina. Maybe that momentum that he picked up after he had a landslide victory in South Carolina is going to carry over into North Carolina. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm just going to say it's a toss-up. I don't really know where it's going to go. So next up, we have Oklahoma. I think this one is going to Joe Biden, perhaps by a narrow lead. If we look at the latest polls, this was conducted from the 27th of February till the 2nd of March, and it has Biden at 35%, Bernie Sanders trailing 28%. Bernie Sanders is within striking distance. He could pick it up, but it's looking like Biden is going to have a narrow win. And Nate Silver, he says Biden has a 45% chance of winning Oklahoma, Bernie Sanders 25%, Bloomberg 27%. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to say that Joe Biden is going to win Oklahoma by a narrow margin. Now, going into Tennessee, I'm going to give this one to Joe Biden. Once again, another southern state. He does well in southern states. There's very little polling data from Tennessee, but according to Nate Silver, Joe Biden has a 61% chance of winning in Tennessee. Yeah, I'm just going to give it to him. Okay, this is more of a gut feeling than anything else, but I'm pretty sure that he's going to get it. And Joe Biden just seems to fare well in southern states. That's it. Next up, we have Texas. This one, I'm going to give it to Bernie. So in the recent polls and the latest polls, Joe Biden is looking good, which is actually unfathomable because he hadn't set foot in Texas the entire primary. He only set foot in Texas yesterday to do like 2 events. But Bernie Sanders has been putting in the work. Nate Silver says Biden has a 48% chance of winning Texas and Sanders 49%. I just have a feeling that the work Bernie Sanders put in is going to pay off. And you also have a large Latino voter base in Texas, which, as we saw, came out for Bernie Sanders in Iowa, in Nevada. They're going to be there for Bernie. He has way more support among Latinos than any other candidate. I mean, it's not even a competition. So I think they're going to come through for him. That's going to help a lot. And Bernie Sanders is going to win it. It could be by a small margin, but I'm giving it to Bernie. And that's a great thing because Texas, just like California, has an enormous amount of delegates up for grabs. So that will be very beneficial. And there you go. Next up, we have Utah. Once again, this is another stronghold of support for Bernie Sanders. I'm giving this one to him as well. Nate Silver has him at 87% chance of winning it. This poll was before South Carolina. Bernie Sanders right at the top with 28%. So yeah, I'm just giving this to Bernie. There you go. After that, we have his home state of Vermont. Easy win. I mean, this is not even a question. What am I supposed to say? Nate Silver has him at 99% chance of winning Vermont. Of course, he's going to win Vermont easily. And last but not least, we have Virginia. The very latest polls show Joe Biden at 45%, Bernie Sanders trailing him at 25%. So that Biden has a 20-point lead there. This is enormous. Nate Silver says Joe Biden has a 48% chance of winning Virginia, Bernie Sanders 41%. This one could go to Biden, perhaps by a narrow margin. So in the end, Bernie Sanders, I think, is going to have a good day today, no matter what. He comes out with a ton of delegates, way more than Joe Biden. He's killing it in most states, and especially in big states like California, where you have so many delegates up for grabs. So the only question now is, by how much is Bernie Sanders going to be leading? Because if Bernie Sanders racks up a ton of delegates, it's going to be much harder for the DNC to rob him of the nomination, because they have to make the case then that, oh, Joe Biden is actually the one who got so many votes and has the best path. But they can't do that if the margin is so large, okay? If it's very tight, it's going to be easier for them to steal it from Bernie Sanders. The public won't be that mad. It's not going to make the Democratic Party look so harsh. It will save the Democratic Party from looking as corrupt. So Bernie Sanders, he is going to win. He's going to do well today, but he needs to do really well. Okay, not just today, but in general. He really needs to rack up as much delegates as possible in order to make it very hard for the DNC to steal it from him. Now, honestly, my opinion, I think no matter what happens, it's going to be a brokered convention. I don't see Bernie Sanders getting a majority, unfortunately. I think we're going to go into a contested convention. And since Joe Biden is clearly the opposition now in the main competitor to Bernie Sanders, and he has openly said that he's ready to contest the nomination, Bernie Sanders has to put up a fight now. So we'll see how this goes. But all in all, even in the worst case scenario, today will be fine for Bernie Sanders. So don't worry too much.